So here's where we are as we head into the final 3 games of the season for everybody bar Nottingham Forest, who are at Crystal Palace tomorrow night. These are the group of teams who are going for Champions League football next season. Arsenal losing last night meant that maybe Newcastle have just started to put a little bit of pressure on them in terms of finishing in second place. But the gap to Manchester City is 3 points. Newcastle got the draw today. They're now level on points and goal difference with Chelsea. Play each other next week. Then it's Forest against Villa. And then remember, Forest and Chelsea play each other on the final day of the season. So there's still a lot to be decided. And obviously, the Opta supercomputer can't factor in emotions, and it can't factor in the fact that there are human beings involved in all of this. Having said that, what do you think?
I think the momentum is obviously huge. We all talk about it as sportsmen, footballers, whatever it is. And Nottingham Forest would be the team now that you just start to fear about, because the performance against Brentford was a difficult one for them to take. They looked a little bit edgy. I was at the game. They've got to get 3 points tomorrow on Monday Night Football. That's vitally important, just to put the pressure on everybody else. And then their fixtures, I just looked to that one, and Chelsea at home last day of the season. And I think right now Nottingham Forest would take their chances and go, if we can get to that home advantage against them to try and get into that top 5. Aston Villa obviously got it all to do. They're going to be relying on other teams, maybe dropping points. But this is a pressurised part of the season. You need a little bit of luck. Chelsea got their little bit of luck today to a certain extent. When you see that team sheet and you see no Gravenberch, you see no McAllister, no Soboslai, no Konate, you're thinking, we've got a real chance here today. That's the difference. You need a little bit of luck in how the fixtures are, maybe playing a Tottenham if they've got a big cup game, Man United. You need things to go your way. But right now, Chelsea feel like they've got that momentum, got a bit of form back, and Nottingham Forest at the moment, you'd have to fear for them a little bit.
Except that they do have the City Ground, which, as you mentioned, is the venue for the last game of the season against Chelsea. They've used that before in recent history to try and keep themselves in the Premier League. Can they use it again to try and get themselves into the Champions League?
Yeah, they've obviously come off it recently, but I think if you looked at Forest and you spoke to the Forest players, you said, would you took this as the start of the season? They would have been delighted. Cool. They've had a difficult few weeks, and again, we go back to Forest, the way they play. The first goal is huge for them in every game. If they get it, you think they can sit in, but every time they give up a goal, the first goal, don't look like they can win a game. So, yeah, I think if you said Forest and Chelsea at the end of the season, maybe winner takes all. You look at Villa, where they are at the moment. Obviously, Villa have Spurs and United to play, and if Spurs and Villa are distracted by cups, United look like they'll never win another game in the league. So, yeah, it's interesting. And we talk about that big word, momentum, confidence, players off the bench, and Forest at the moment, you'd fear from, but big game from, is it tomorrow night? Yeah, big game from.
And with all of the fixtures in there are very few of them, Daniel, that you can look at and say, you know exactly which version of those teams are going to turn up in those games.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, you can see that there's a lot of head-to-heads for all the teams that are vying for those 5 spots. So I'm just really excited to see them get to work, because it's how they shape up tactically and how the managers will approach these games, given that, you know, some of them may take a point in some of the games, some of them will go for it. I think that last game that, you know, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest is going to be the one that is going to be the most interesting out of all of them, I would say, because it, you know, that game, it's all to play for, literally. Winner takes all. That's the thing, that as a player, you want your destiny in your hands, and you know that as long as you take care of business, that you get to perform on the biggest stage. So it's down to the players to show up and show out.
At least part of the celebrations here at Stamford Bridge today with that win suggests that they think this is a huge game in terms of Champions League qualification. Do you think that it's a big 3 points for Chelsea that can take them into the Champions League next season?
Well, they found some confidence, and it felt a little bit more connection with the fans. I think when Chelsea play at their best, there's a bit more energy about them. When they played against Tottenham, they were excellent. I think when they're passive and they play out from the back, I don't think the fans connect with it. They don't want to see it. They want to see the football a bit further forward with their better players getting on the ball. I felt that Levi Colwell at times today, when he was coming out of centre-back position, going into midfield, playing, you know, and that was energy about it, and that set the tempo. I mean, they had to sit back. They didn't perhaps have the possession that they would normally expect, but that's because Liverpool came into the game. But you always knew on the break they could do something really different. So when you look at the whole title race is shaped with the top 5 title race is going to be so interesting, because you need the right fixtures, you need things to go your way, you need a little bit of luck as well, and players in banging form. And I think that the fact how good Cole Palmer was today, that's going to have a massive impact on the rest of the season for them.
So Arsenal 7 points clear of 6th place with 9 to play for. 12 if you count Nottingham Forest. The rest of the teams all bunched up very nicely. So is it a bit early to call it for Chelsea yet in terms of where they finish?
No, but it just on the back of today's result, they'll obviously have belief. You see the feel-good factor amongst the players. There seems a good spirit amongst them, and you need your star players to step up at the crunch games. And obviously people like Palmer all of a sudden are turning up. You see Forest, one or two Forest players getting a bit tightening up when you see the finishing line, because that's the challenge for players all along when teams, particularly we have to look at Forest, they've been going along nicely, but then all of a sudden the expectation is that Champions League is there for you and it's right in front of them and they almost have it, and then you start slipping up and you lose that maybe confidence and belief. You look where Aston Villa, maybe somebody will win out on goal difference, but it's so hard to call, it's so tight. He asking me who I think is going to make it. No, and there probably will be some twists and turns over the next few weeks, and that's what makes it so exciting. See Villa win the weekend. I thought that was a really good game against Fulham. I really enjoyed that. They were up for it and they're trying to score goals and there's excitement. Next weekend it could be another twist, could be one bad decision, a mistake from a player, and before you know it, you're out of the Champions League. And any mistake now you're thinking next year will obviously cost you because you're running out of games. Yeah. Huge pressure.
Every weekend we're going to ask you the question. Every weekend I'm expecting everybody to give different answers as well, as there are twists and turns in the race for Champions League football. Liverpool have no such pressures on them at the moment. They will have wanted to get the victory today.